Burping cocktail shrimp is disgusting.
Jesus. Yeah. Can't imagine that that's like the go-to in life.
Should have ate them for lunch.
Shrimp
I can't think of anything that's like enjoyable to burp. Like, like a mint, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe a mint.
I mean, a beer burp is great.
But yeah, that's like more of
great.
the release than the... Oh, no, it doesn't taste good. Stop it. Stop.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, February 9th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Eric Linduqist. We are brought to you by BetMGM. 6-game slate ahead of us, looking a little bit different than it did earlier. Buddy Hield, available. Campaign, available. Patrick Beverley, available. Lots of other things still waiting in the wings. So hit that like button so you can watch NBA Live Before Lock after this. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Eric, what's going on?
Happy to have it be the weekend. Happy weekend, everybody. Super Bowl weekend at that. Yeah, which is always kind of a downer for me because I always prefer 2 or more games for any slate. But such is life. It'll be a fun one, I think, at least. Should be an enjoyable game. And we've got a bajillion hours of content all over the place for you guys for that one. I'll be on Live Before Lock on Sunday. But otherwise, yeah, this is shaping up to be a pretty wild 6-gamer, that's for sure.
It is. These post-trade deadline joints are usually a little unique. And slowly but surely, we're getting a couple guys ruled in. I don't think we'll see a ton. It's not a guarantee. Sometimes you just have the ability to get people in for medicals and turn it around pretty quick. It's rare that happens. It all depends sort of like where these guys were the night before. Did they have a game? That kind of stuff will slow it down. But we do now have Buddy Hield in. Well, we have Buddy Hield available to play for the Philadelphia 76ers, as is Campaign. Whether or not they are playing, however much they're playing, that is still up in the air. Does Hield start? Who knows? But we shall find out sometime before 7 p.m. because lucky for us, that game is the first game. If it was an 8 p.m. start, it would be a big-time pain in the ass.
Big time.
You want to break this bad boy down? It's weird, man. It's a weird slate.
We're going to spend a lot of time on this first one, so let's just dive in.
The Atlanta Hawks are 3-point favorites in Philadelphia, 247 total. We have a probable tag on DeAndre Hunter. We have a Q tag on Patty Mills and a Q tag on DeJounte Murray, which may just be an artifact of him being a questionable to be on the Atlanta Hawks tag. But for now, assuming everybody is in, we got about 10% ownership to Murray, Johnson, Okongwu, Trae Young. This is not the same Philly team you normally see, however. What do you like for the Hawks?
I like Trae Young. I don't mind Trae Young. I know he's a guy you've routinely been a little bit over the field on here as well. I'm obviously pissed about the Celtics game. Was able to kind of get everything right with that news and didn't really matter. You had Bogdanovich play like absolute death. But I think all of the guys, these main components, Young, Murray, Johnson, and Okongwu, I think they all have different levels of interest for me. It's going to depend on positionality of some of this value that shows up from Philly. It's going to show up later in the slate here as well. Okongwu's up to 6,200 and yet is somebody that I'm still getting to, which is pretty wild. But the guy I have the most of right now is Trae Young at 16%. So I'm a little bit under on some of these other pieces. But Jalen Johnson, somebody that I don't mind concerning, he's nearly a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. I guess DeJounte Murray, I mean, he's had this faux Q tag next to him forever. I assume that he plays basketball here, and like DeJounte Murray is just back from the trade deadline, but I suppose we'll still be waiting on that news, I suppose. Might open up Bogdanovich for another go around, but as it stands right now, basically $9,300 Trae Young. You don't have the Joel Embiid piece. This defensive rating for Philly is going to plummet as we accumulate sample size without him, and I just want to get to the guy who produces the most from a fantasy perspective on a slate where we have eternal value.
I'm with you. Trae Young is the guy that I also have the most of. And I have scattered amounts of Murray, Johnson, Okongwu, Bay, even Bogdanovich to a good degree at 5,900 shooting guard only today. I think it's okay to get a couple of these pieces. The total in this game is higher than any other total on today's slate. Obviously, Atlanta doesn't play any defense. This is a Philly team that is going to try to play defense, but doesn't exactly have that sort of personnel around at this point, given the fact that there's no Batum, there's no Covington, there's no Joel Embiid, there's no DeAnthony Melton. Like all of those guys are at the very least average defenders, if not quite a bit better than that. They're just replacing everybody with not good defenders, whether that's Campaign or Buddy Hield or all of those made up creative players that were at the end of the bench that we were a lot more interested in a couple
Yeah.
hours ago compared to where we are right now. Basically, for Atlanta, I don't know how many minutes DeAndre Hunter can play, so it kind of limits the ability of wanting to get to him at 5K. I guess you could take a shot at someone like Bruno Fernando as like a complete, well, if Okongwu gets hurt, he's the only guy that can pick up the minutes type dude. But the other 6 dudes for the Hawks, like I think they're at minimum, you feel okay if they're your last guy in. To Trae Young, where it's just like, yeah, that'll work for me. It's Trae Young against the Sixers.
If he gets hurt, I bet Jalen Johnson goes to the 5 for a lot of minutes. For what it's worth, like Bruno Fernando, I think is pretty hard capped at 15 minutes. He was dealing with back spasms towards the end of January into the beginning of this year. I went on Twitter and was just doing some scouring as I was trying to project minutes for Okongwu from a couple of games ago, like 2 games ago it would have been. And it landed on a pretty firm, like, I don't think there's any scenario where Fernando plays over 15. If he goes out and absolutely smashes in 15, that'd be one thing. Like, you can maybe make a case for it, but he's still, 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy, 15 minutes. Like, if he goes 1-5 and puts up 23, you're still not going to want him probably on this slate specifically. So I don't think there's probably any need. I just took him out.
Anything else you want to touch on for the Atlanta side?
Yeah, Saddiq Bey. This is just absurd. He's been shooting the ball really well. And again, we're seeing some interesting minutes with some of these guys, 33, 36. As Hunter starts to play more, I think there's, obviously it's pretty much going to take away from Saddiq Bey, but with him still limited there, I know Saddiq Bey's up to 6K. I'm not getting to him right now, but if we get a little bit closer to lock, pending what other pieces show up, pending how some of this news breaks down, if you don't have DeJounte Murray out there, he's probably going to end up being the lowest owned out of everybody there outside of Hunter. And I don't really want to play Hunter considering, he needs to shoot the ball eternally well to return something for you at 24 minutes. But I think Saddiq Bey is at least like the guy that if everybody's jamming Bogdanovich, Johnson, Young, I could find my way onto some Saddiq Bey considering, the true shooting's been through the roof the last couple weeks.
I tend to get to a lot of Saddiq Bey. I only have 4% right now, but I'll take whatever I can get. I had that dude over projected for weeks using everything that I was doing for a while.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the Philly side, we got the news at 3:40 that Hield and Payne are available. We still have a Q tag on Tyrese Maxey, which really is like the most important piece of all of this. Assuming Maxey is in, I think we're going to see Maxey, Hield, Oubre, Harris, and Paul Reed as the starting lineup today. Does that make sense to you?
Same, 100%.
Because earlier we had 35% ownership coming into KJ Martin. Ooh, Jason Tatum available to play. We had 15% ownership coming into Terquavion Smith. We had 20 coming into Ricky Council. I think all of that goes away if that starting lineup ends up being the real starting lineup.
I would agree as well.
Now, the question then becomes, what do we want to do? Because we can talk about talking about Maxey, talking about Harris, talking about Oubre, talking about Reed. We know how to do that in relationship to the Sixers. And these guys look good. We'll talk about them in a second. If 5K shooting guard small forward Buddy Hield is starting today against Atlanta at the 2, how do we feel here? Because I really like that price tag.
We would play a lot of him. Alongside Maxey, I guess it's just completely different situations. Halliburton was more of a creator than what any other point guard he's probably going to play with is going to be. But Maxey isn't exactly a 0 without Embiid out there. I think that'll still be something that we see create there. I put Buddy Hield in for 30 minutes right from the get-go. I don't see any reason that they would not have him at that kind of a number. Maybe there's a case to be made for bringing him off the bench if there's no familiarity, and then, everybody will maybe go to that. But I think regardless, we're going to see a ton of minutes for Buddy Hield relative to like what I bet he gets projected for around the industry when that news comes out. So I'm with you. I think with him active, I would assume that he starts. And then along with that, it's a guy that has always shot the ball. And, he's going to be one of those guys who's out there chucking right from the get-go. That at least makes it like at 5K, it's not like I need him to run into some crazy outlier. I need him to just do what he's done throughout his entire career. be a willing participant in the shooting department and just kind of let the chips fall where they may. So for me with Buddy, it's a guy with nearly a 60% true shooting. It's a little bit worse than what he had last season, but he's still just that kind of a guy. You know what you're getting into with him. And he's been a pretty flat defender as well this season. I can't imagine that, you wouldn't have him out there for 30 minutes right from the get-go, as opposed to Council, who has just kind of proven he's not all that good so far.
Yeah. We just got an ownership update if you're interested in grabbing that. That
I
came
am.
in within the last couple seconds. So I'm going to start off running the things that I need to get ready for the rest of this show. And then we're going to circle back to what we're seeing right now for Atlanta and for Philadelphia. So as I click the buttons on the back end for myself, just circling back to Atlanta, we have 16% ownership coming into Onyeka Okongwu. That doesn't really surprise me here. 13 to DeJounte Murray. It's all basically the same, right around that 10% mark for Jalen Johnson, for Trae Young. Everything looking pretty reasonable on the Atlanta side. No, not that we were I didn't expect anything wild to be up there now. Paul Reed is 24% owned for Philly. We have Tobias Harris at 14. We have Tyrese Maxey at 10. There's probably going to be some artifacts for Buddy Hield for a little bit. So he wasn't in the salary file for most of today. Just recently got added on the DraftKings side to come in at that 5K number. But, getting that re-added, since you don't normally get new dudes into the salary file during the middle of the day. We don't have any ownership on Buddy Hield yet, but he will get some sort of ownership as the day goes on.
Even more reason to have the Sims tool, because there's a lot of optimizers I'm looking at that don't have Hield in yet. So that might be something that is really difficult for them to do on the back end. Makes me kind of like getting to Mr. Buddy Hield even a little bit more, because I know some people are still living in the dark ages where that is their sole way that they are building out lineups. So I feel pretty encouraged about that. I hope we get Buddy Hield starting. I will play a lot. I think he'll still have a lot of ownership at that number, but I think it is more than justified.
So what do you want to, let's start with Maxey. Assuming he's in, how do you feel about him at that current ownership number? Because that is relatively low.
Yeah, it's relatively low considering over the course of the entire season, we've just kind of been waiting for that eruption spot here without Joel Embiid for him. We got it in Utah. It's been tough sledding outside of that. It's just a guy that we would expect to be leading this team by leaps and bounds in terms of usage. 32.6% usage in 815 minutes without Joel Embiid on the floor. That is a far cry from just about anybody else. Tobias Harris is sitting there sub 25%. He's also going to be your primary ball handler. Only a 23.7% assist percentage. But again, with another shooter out there, with Buddy Hield out there, spacing, like just in terms of floor spacing, I think that is more encouraging. You think about some of the other guys that he had been playing with at the two, whether that was like a Jaden Springer once upon a time, whether that's, a Ricky Council that would have been picking up some of those minutes, KJ Martin, things of that nature. None of them are catch and shoot guys necessarily, and definitely not catch and shoot guys to the level of a Buddy Hield. He has other inefficiencies, but Buddy Hield is going to be really good at that one thing. And so he will be chucking it. If he's knocking shots down, you're going to see this assist rate closer to 30%, I think, in a pretty quick hurry. I don't know where I want to be setting the bar at for today. I'm going to kind of go at like 27.5 to split the difference between what we've had for the season and then what we could expect going forward here for him. But without Patrick Beverley there as well, that's another component where he had the highest assist rate at 26.4% without Joel Embiid on the floor at 550 minutes with this team. So maybe we just push that thing to 30 right from the get-go.
I think we might have to. What do you want to do with Tobias Harris? Because he's sitting here looking like a good play. He's 14% owned, and yet we'll probably like him even more if we happen to lose Maxey.
Yeah, we would definitely like him even more. That would be useful because then,
yeah.
I mean, Tobias Harris is he's going to be playing a lot of minutes for this basketball team under pretty much any circumstance. I've got him in for 36 right now. I'm probably not going to change that. I could probably go up to 37.5, 38 without a Tyrese Maxey out there. You're going to need him out there as much as humanly possible. I mean, Philadelphia, they've fallen so far that they are now home dogs to Atlanta on the other side on a historic season that Atlanta's having against the spread, like the worst team of all time against the spread that you've ever seen. So like that really does tell you something if Atlanta's up 3 coming into this one specifically. So Tobias Harris, they're going to need a lot from him in the absence of Joel Embiid. Quite obviously, he had been having a good season up to this point. Everything across the board outside of like effective field goal percentage. He had a 59.7% true shooting, so I'm not going to scoff at that necessarily, but there's room for him to get a little bit more in terms of the usage from 25%, much north of that here if you get Mr. Tyrese Maxey out.
Any Paul Reed for you? Any Kelly Oubre for you? Does anything else stand out for Philly as of right now?
Here's the tough thing for me. This matchup specifically against Atlanta, I think Paul Reed, Okongwu, they match up pretty good. You put Paul Reed in for 28, 29 minutes, but like what else does Philly do at the center? Like, is it just going to be a split Mo Bamba here? Because Mo Bamba only played 9 minutes against Golden State, but that's such a specific matchup. They ended up going to KJ Martin for 29 minutes in that spot. And I think, if anybody's going to cut it to Paul Reed, I think it's more likely to be KJ Martin just in terms of the overlap. Like, I think Mo Bamba will get 8-10 minutes no matter what. We've got him in around 18 as like basically a true center split with Paul Reed. Maybe that makes more sense in this matchup than it does against Golden State. But Philly, if things aren't going well, you kind of up the variance. You put KJ Martin out there, not a high usage guy by any means, but he's still capable. I mean, Okongwu isn't your giganto center out there, the likes of a Clint Capella. And so there's at least some concern I have where Paul Reed can get ripped off the floor if things aren't going well. But the guy's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy here, no Joel Embiid, and you're going to have an opportunity for him to really show out in a couple of these games and win himself into 30s minutes. And if this is one of those, I mean, only a quarter of the field rostering him, I have no problem with it. It's at least something I've got in the back of my mind as we have value emerge, as we have other parts of the slate show up, where it's like, is he a part that I want in a quarter of my lineups with the amount of risk he's carrying? I think at 5,800, it's probably justified, but before this show, I was getting north of it. And now my last run, I just got south of it here. We're still missing Buddy that I need to be accounting for in my stuff. So that's a gigantic piece, but we'll see kind of where the chips fall at the end of this, if you guys want to know.
Yeah, I got my sim running right now, and I'll let everybody know once this one finishes. I should have the my Atlanta and Philly exposures within the next couple minutes. I don't really have anything else here for Philly. I guess one thing we should touch on, if we end up getting Maxey out, we've got Campaign at 3,800. We got Tre'Davion Smith at 3,300. I think we really like whoever starts. And I think whoever the backup is also very viable, because I think those guys would split essentially all 48 minutes at the point.
Yeah, I would like Campaign to start the most from a fantasy perspective, 3,800, and can show out from time to time here. I guess it doesn't really matter. They're both so cheap. Smith is pulling 15% ownership here at the moment, and that's just kind of the weirdest thing to look at because he's in for 10 minutes for me right now, so that's enjoyable. I guess that's just kind of a wait and see. This is the very first game. It's the only one that's on lock, so live before lock will keep you guys apprised of pretty much everything that we have to do there. It's a gigantic piece to fall with Maxey, but in the event that Maxey's in, you don't fortunately have to think about those idiots. But if he's out, probably embrace the guy who's starting. I probably would be playing a lot of Campaign, even if he was coming off the bench. I just would probably be toned down a little bit.
As of right now, I have 30% of Maxey, 30% of Tobias Harris. I'm under the field to Paul Reed at 14. Buddy Hield will certainly get changed up a little bit. And I have about 10% of Murray, Johnson, Okongwu, and Trae Young.
Love.
Yeah, I'm cool with all that.
Yeah, everything you said is like
one.
In the back of my mind. Like I know you were running through a sim and having a thing going. Like in the back of my mind, once upon a time, that's how I would think I would want my exposures to look if I were looking at this game and just saw what the ownership was at.
Fingers crossed it holds this way. I do not want to deal with no Tyrese Maxey. I think that is a very unfun way to play today.
That was the first thing I said when we got into the Zoom room. I was like, man, if Maxey's out, this is really going to suck, because you have to contemplate everything. It's the first game, and there's other dominoes that could fall later in 3.5 hours of a slate, but that one is gigantic because of the number of pieces of value you have to contemplate.
What a game. Anything else for Atlanta or Philly?
Got the big one over with.
Yes, we did. Hit that like button, folks. 1,400 of you in the house. We're already up to 170. You guys must really want to watch NBA Live before lock after this. That is the show next, 6 p.m. to 7. If you want to see it, you got to click that like button. That will unlock our content for you. We also want you to use our avatar. Go to stokastic.com/avatar, grab that logo, use it on DraftKings, FanDuel, use it on Owner's Box or Yahoo. Finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries. You get 1 month of whatever you want, other than the all sports package. That's a little bit too much right now. We'll give you the NBA package, $200 value, projections, ownership, Sims tool, contest generator, lineup generator, premium Discord. Normally you pay $200 for that. You'd get it for free as long as you tweet your result at StokasticHOF. We want to see that lineup that you've got. We want to see the contest you're in. We want to show off that avatar at the top of a contest. So that's all you'll have to do. Let us know that you finished in the top 3. And good luck, everybody. You should be using our avatars. The best thing you could do. The worst thing that you could do is watch this game. The Washington Wizards are 17.5-point underdogs in Boston, 235 total. And just in case that sounds really bad, it gets worse. Marvin Bagley is out. Isaiah Livers is out. We do not have any status on Rashawn Holmes pending the trade, and I don't think we'll get that today. Patrick Baldwin, who approximates a center, also out. 34% ownership right now coming into $3,800 power forward center Eugene Omoyuri, who I think the consensus is he's the starter, or at least playing a decent chunk of minutes. Starts. I think they might go Kuzma at the 5 as well. They could also start Anthony Gill. They could really start anybody because they suck. And most of these guys are all the same different flavor of garbage. Are you assuming they just go small with Kuzma?
I assume they go to Anthony Gill.
Okay. Either way,
Gill is the guy. It is what
how
it
do you
is.
feel about Gill or Omoyuri in this spot?
I put them in at 24 minutes apiece. I don't know what else to do. I think that was kind of the first part where it's like, I think there's probably ending up some hot hand approach where maybe it goes either direction. But in terms of trying to project out the spot, of course, my camera goes away here at that moment. I am pretty positive. Yeah, it just always looks better at this point in time. Is what it is. But as I look at things for this specific spot, it's like Omoyuri is pulling all the ownership and all the land. He's a 1.43 fantasy point per minute guy here, and everybody saw the smash that he had against Phoenix, 41 fantasy points in it, and he's played well. He's gotten minutes. He's been in the rotation, but I think there's a case to be made where they just keep him in the same spot. And now I thought Patrick Baldwin had a good chance to start, and now with him out, it becomes Anthony Gill, I think, that ends up being the guy that they call upon. We've got him at 4 minutes, so obviously that's not the consensus. And Omoyuri, I put them each at 24. I have a lot of Omoyuri right now because I have him for more minutes than the 20, but I just basically split it down the middle. Maybe this is something that goes against the industry consensus, and that is obviously a good thing. But like Anthony Gill isn't some outstanding fantasy performer, but he's 3,400 and somebody that I'm just kind of preloading into lineups from the get-go.
I think so. I went to 22 on Omoyuri, and I'm still getting to him at that number, and I feel like that's a pretty realistic. I mean, we had him at 20, so it could have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had him at 24.
I think they're going to go small.
I don't know what to do but split it. Yeah, I agree, but like Anthony Gill and Omoyuri are kind of small as is. So
when I say small, I mean small and guys that normally always do play.
Gotcha.
I think they're just live to go. Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole, like Corey Kispert, Bilal Coulibaly. No, so like one of Corey Kispert, Bilal Coulibaly, Avdia, and Kuzma. Just go 5 out, let it sail, and then hope for the best on the second unit and see where you stand. I could also see a situation where they do that and then Omoyuri like starts the second half if it's not going the way that they want it to go. Because it really doesn't matter. Like we can call him a center if we want. We talked about this on the strategy show this morning. He's not, and nobody is on this team. That's the key takeaway. If you pull them up on Basketball Reference, the tallest guy on the team is Marvin Bagley at 6'10". The next two tallest people are Denny Avdia at 6'9" and Kyle Kuzma at 6'9". You
Yeah.
have Baldwin, Kispert,
Oh.
Gill, Omer Yuri, Jules Bernard, and Isaiah Livers all at 6'7".
Holmes is 6'10" if he played, but for what it's worth.
Yeah, he would be the real actual center if he were available today. But I don't think there's much of a difference if you go to Kuzma. I mean, like, Corey Kispert is technically the same height as Eugene Omoyuri. Obviously, these guys play a very different design of basketball, but from a height standpoint, evidently they would cross a door frame at the exact same spot.
I guess my concern for Omoyuri, I mean, he is 6'6". You're not rolling out 6'6", I don't think, most of these spots. I think he probably comes off the bench. I think Gill gets the first crack at it, 6'8", a little bit more size, a little bit more. I mean, they're both going to get absolutely slaughtered, but it's going to be an enjoyable experience along for the ride. That'll be fun.
Buddy Hield and Cam Payne both have a good chance to start Friday. Why does Cam Payne? I mean,
I'm just taking Maxey out.
To read that means Tyrese Maxey isn't as likely to play, or Cam Payne is likely to start if he does. They aren't starting Cam Payne and Buddy Hield if Maxey's in.
Take a look at this line.
Like that one's not happening. That I'm they're not starting Oubre to start Cam Payne. So
correct.
That can only matter if in regards of Maxey playing.
This is just going to be.
We got to remember, this is also just like a random quote from Nick Nurse. There's no context to if he means like, we might start Payne if Maxey doesn't play. I don't think this doesn't give me any lean towards Tyrese Maxey.
Also, when you think about like things in terms of probabilities, Scottie Scheffler has a good chance to win every single golf tournament that he plays in, and it's still like 30% implied odds, like at the absolute tippy top. Like he's normally like a 15% chance. That's a good chance in golf. Like everything has context. I don't know what a good chance is for starting. Is that better than 50-50? That's the way that it sounds like to me, but like I don't know how to put any context to it.
So, I mean, there's nothing we could take from that other than makes me feel better about projecting Buddy Hield to start. But I'm expecting, as of right now, I will have Maxey in until he's not in. I would never go a different direction for this one. Not at 7 o'clock. It's not worth the extra work right now.
Omoyuri plays a lot bigger than 6'6" with that wingspan. So no, Eric, wrong again. So does Draymond Green. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're both terrible. They're both going to get slaughtered. I'm of the assumption that Gill gets a start simply because it's like, oh, we need another tall guy with Kuzma to potentially do something down low, just try to rebound the basketball. Omoyuri plays bigger, kind of. I mean, he played a lot at Oregon, so I've seen him play a ton of basketball. He's just whatever. He's not like an NBA caliber basketball player.
Arcathelza, they're absolutely not starting alongside Maxey. 0% chance. That implies that they are then not starting Kelly Oubre today. It's just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just not happening. They're obviously not benching Tobias Harris.
No, they're not doing.
Do you like anything else from Washington?
No, I don't know what I like from Washington. I like Kuzma a little bit. He's pulling a lot of ownership, but like if this game stays competitive in any way, shape, or form, he's like a $1.25 fantasy producer, and that's going to be what he is on this team in this construction forever. He's really the only like guy that I would want on an NBA team from this entire roster. Maybe Tyus Jones in a backup role like he had in Memphis, but 6,100 for him today. No, thank you. Denny Avdia at 6,200. No, thank you. Kispert. My God, did we miss the Corey Kispert day? When everybody else just enjoyed him going out and going, 6 for 14 from 3, 4 for 9 from 3. He's been a willing shooter. The rebound rate's been up a little bit, but like, no thank you overall.
Good God, Chad is terrible for this. Boston Celtics. White, Brown, Tatum, Holiday, Porzingis. Seems like all 5 of those guys are going to be in, which means kind of difficult to want to get to Boston. Any one of those guys is totally fine to have in a lineup. Yep. I think Jason Tatum looks the best, but to me, I will not have a ton of volume here. And, you know, it's hard to believe that you see these guys all play. Like you see Jason Tatum play 36 minutes here. I'm sure he doesn't want to.
I bet he doesn't either. I do like Kristaps Porzingis. Everything we were just talking about to a certain extent is actually showing up in my lineups. Just I have 12% of him, so a little bit over half, but otherwise I don't really have anything else from this spot at all. You never know. Could Jaylen Brown put up 50? Absolutely. Could Derek White put up 50? Sure. But like these are such low probability outcomes that I'm not really putting any stock into it. If they get into a lineup or two in the 40 that I'm making today, so be it.
Yeah.
But otherwise I'm happy to not get to them too.
I have nothing else to add for Boston. They are as easy to talk about as you could possibly want to talk about a team. They're
The
like the
least
exact
appealing on
opposite
the
of Philly.
slate. I can't imagine. I mean, the Lakers have lower total ownership, or at least they did on my sheet before the news came in. They were the most unappealing team to be getting to on this entire slate, and I there's pieces from the Lakers that we could end up liking a little bit more. So I will say the least appealing team on this slate by far is Boston right now.
I have less Boston than every other team.
There you go. Makes sense. And as I said, like the ownership is cumulatively lower on the Lakers, but such is life.
The Houston Rockets are 2-point underdogs in Toronto, 234 total. A little bit of ownership coming into this one for Amen Thompson. He is at 73%, 5,300 point guard, shooting guard, stepping back into that starting role for Fred VanVleet, I would imagine. I have 64. He looks like one of the best plays today. Do you have any disagreement to the Amen Thompson ownership?
No. I did take his under fantasy score on Prize Picks.
So did I.
Oh, you did?
I think so. I don't know.
36 and a half was big. That was a big number.
Wait, you went fantasy score? I think I have under his PRA, but we're basically talking about the same play.
Okay. Yeah. Less than 36 and a half fantasy score. I think turnover potential here too. Our guy averages a buck and a half of those already. And now you basically double his minutes and you're doubling a lot of his stats against Toronto, who's been the worst defensive team the last 5 games in the entire NBA. Like, I get it, but yeah, Amen Thompson, I have no problem in DFS looking at him projected for 33 fantasy points and having him in as many lineups as possible. I currently have 85% of him, so there you go.
Yeah, 27.5 PRA is what I have for Amen Thompson. I took less than. That said, he'll be in 64% of my lineup because that's not how this works. Salaries matter. Yep. You know, if he was 8K, then I would be very happy to not have him, but he's not.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with the rest of this Houston lineup? You've got Aaron Holiday pulling a ton of ownership. He's at 20%. We've got Şengün at 17. Whitmore and Brooks are both at 10. Jabari Smith at 25. What else stands out to you from Houston?
Yeah, there's no way of knowing whether Aaron Holiday or Cam Whitmore can be on a floor more. Cam Whitmore came out of the gate really, really hot against Indy here in its current iteration, just looking at games without Fred VanVleet out. It could be Aaron Holiday, but Aaron Holiday more than likely, I think, is just over-owned. I mean, we're talking about a guy who played 23, or we've got projected for 23 minutes. He only played 20 last game, and things went well for him to get to that kind of a number. I think he's the guy who's probably at the most risk of having those slashed to some extent. Not necessarily. Jae'Sean Tate has been, quite eliminated. He shows up at the end of the first quarter, at the end of the third quarter, and those are his 2 rotations so far. I don't think Jalen Green is really a guy that I'm going to be getting to at 7,300 anymore. So that price at least has taken him off the board for me. I want to ask you about Şengün because this is a guy that I generally end up getting to at least to the field, or if not a little bit. And right now I have 6% of him. He's just a monster without Fred VanVleet going up against Toronto. But I do look on the other side, Jakob Poeltl. He's about the only useful defender here that they've had outside of Scotty Barnes, and Scotty Barnes has had a little bit of regression there. Emmanuel Quickley's had massive regression as a defender. This entire Toronto team, I don't know what to make of them the last week or so, but I mean, Jakob Poeltl's just kind of getting going here again. I don't know what to make of the fact that I'm not getting to my guy here.
I have 0.
Oh shit. Okay, that's
he's 9K.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just having a really tough time with it because I normally see, 8,500, 8,700, and I'm like, double the field. I'm, 1.5x the field. And here I'm just not getting there, and it's terrifying.
No, to me, it's very difficult to want to pay 9K for Şengün in this spot.
Okay. Well, we're on the same board there. So play Şengün is what we're getting.
Oh yeah, I mean if I'm fading a 20% owned Şengün and have zero, you best believe that dude is going to set some sort of rebounding record today.
Quadruple double incoming. Just
What about the rest of these guys? The only other guy that I actually have here with any sort of volume, like I've got enough of Whitmore and Brooks, but I have 18% of Jabari Smith, slightly below the field. It seems to be like Amin Thompson and not much else.
yeah, so Ahmed Thompson jamming. I like Jabari Smith again. I liked him last slate as a little bit of a contrarian piece. I didn't expect 40 minutes coming down the pipeline, but he's now done that a couple of times here. And this is a spot where 5,400 power forward still has some utility for me in my lineups. I prefer getting to Zion for 1,700 more like everybody else, but there is no doubt that Jabari Smith is a good play. I know he's not pouring that out in our projections, but we have him at 32 minutes. Again, there is a massive, massive minutes upside there.
Yeah. I got nothing else for Houston.
Neither. Yeah.
On the Toronto end, they look a little bit different than they did yesterday. They dropped all sorts of different dudes. No more Thad Young experience in Toronto. We've got potentially Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk making their way to Toronto. Jonte Porter also questionable. 25% ownership coming into Emmanuel quickly. Around 10 for Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. Who do you like the most from the Raptors?
Right now it's the centers, and I'm saying centers as in Jakob Poeltl and Kelly Olynyk if he ends up playing basketball today. 4,300. I'm assuming that Porter and Boucher are just done. Like, I don't think they play. Do you?
I have Porter in. I don't have Olynyk in.
You don't think Olynyk plays?
As of right now, no.
Interesting. Okay. Well, then I guess we're just kind of waiting on the news.
I've left every single person that was traded in the past 2 days. I have left out.
Okay, I just added Buddy Hield, so I just
obviously
added
those
other
obviously
guys
Hield and Payne don't count.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Otherwise, RJ Barrett is the weird one that I'm getting to here. 7,100 shooting guard, small forward. I like getting there. Gary Trent still at 4,600. The hot hand approach, you can run into 25 real points from him, and that would be useful. And getting to a little bit of him as well. I'm not getting to the 25% Emmanuel quickly. That's a bummer because the tag is starting to come down 6,800. I think that would have some utility, but the guy I have by far the most of on this team is Jakob Poeltl. He's in nearly a quarter of my lineups, and I don't see that changing at any point in time. He is your true center here. He will play 30 minutes in competitive spots. He is going to just be better and better as time goes along here because he's a good actual basketball player. I don't even really know what to add. If you don't have that trade go through here as well, if Jonte Porter ends up being the guy in there, I mean, they're not going to give him more than 15, 20, not even 20, 15, 16 minutes there for him. So yeah, I've got Jakob Poeltl in for 30 and he's showing up a lot for me.
Barnes is the guy that I'm getting to here over the field. That's sort of in line with where we have the boom bust tool. Pretty solid positive leverage. I'm mostly just around the field for everybody else for Toronto, so I don't have a huge stand. Tyrese Maxey not going through pre-game warm-ups at usual time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, prepare. Live Before Lock has you covered there. I think we already talked about that game, Josh.
We certainly did. Now we're going to talk about BetMGM, the sponsor of this show, and you can get an incredible deal. All you have to do is bet $5 after signing up using the link in the description. You'll get $158 in bonus bets. That's two $50 bonus bets and a $58 bonus bet. Worst case scenario here, you lose a $5 bet and all three bonus bets, but you've only lost $5 of your own money. Best case scenario, you hit maybe two of those bonus bets and you're starting off with a much bigger bankroll than you would have expected. You could obviously download the app on iOS or Android. You can go straight to betmgm.com if you want to. Minimum deposit's $10, but you only have to bet $5 to unlock that bonus bet deal. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or over, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But really, just sign up using the links in the description. Charlotte Hornets, 2 touchdown underdogs in Milwaukee, 227 total. They cut half their team yesterday and traded the other half. PJ Washington gone, Ish Smith gone, Frankie Smokes gone, James Bouknight gone. This is a weird team today. Call it 15% ownership to Brandon Miller, Cody Martin, Leaky Black, and Miles Bridges. What are you getting from Charlotte?
I'm getting to Cody Martin. I think I've played DFS like shit this week. I will just kind of be honest with myself. Kind of wrote about that in an article today where there's been a couple of like massive mistakes, and one of them I think was having like zero exposure to Cody Martin. There wasn't even like a hindsight thing. He played 28 minutes. It's not like he played this egregious amount of minutes, but when you look at the rest of this roster, and now especially today, I think it just warrants him being in about 20% of lineups. That's where I've got him at. And so that's where he's showing up at. Brandon Miller, 7,500. I'm still getting over the field on him. This has been a crazy run for him, but it's more to do with the usage in minutes here. Obviously, this is a spot where Milwaukee, massive favorites for a reason, but I bring this up a lot. Fourth quarter rotations, him and Miles Bridges still show up at the like midpoint of a fourth quarter when they're down 15. It happens all the time. It's not like other basketball teams. And so for me, that just creates an opportunity to get to a lower owned $7,500 guy that people just aren't recognizing has a 30% usage now. I mean, this is going to be what him and Miles Bridges just have massive ceilings in any spot whatsoever. And I'm probably going to be overweight to them, especially when you talk about Milwaukee on the other side. The pace is just there. You're talking about fourth in pace, 102 possessions per 48 minutes. And as you just kind of look at the salaries, it's one of those uncomfortable things for other people to click on. That's all the more reason to be getting there in tournaments. So Brandon Miller, I currently have, what is the final number? Okay, I can't even see it here because of the Buddy Hield thing. That's fine. Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, I had a lot of. We shall see as I start to mix everything else in.
Yeah, I'm getting to Cody Martin, neutral. I'm getting to Brandon Miller, neutral, like right at the field. Same situation for Miles Bridges. I'm a little bit under on Leaky Black. I don't mind that at all. He's definitely the last guy that I want to get to from this Hornets team. Wouldn't be surprised if I end up with a little bit more Cody Martin. $5,200 shooting guard only. That's the only sort of hampering factor. One position is always the worst.
Yep.
I don't have any Nick Richards, though. That kind of surprised me.
Why?
Just because he's like a guy on a 6-game slate. He's going to play 30 minutes as a center. Like, we got him at 10% optimal. Just not having any was weird to me.
Yeah. I think what's weird to, yeah, I mean, he's like a center. He's like every center, 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy that is going under-owned, and you can rotate into tournament lineups, and that's cool. With no PJ Washington there, too, they don't have the opportunity to just say, let's go to him, play small ball the rest of the time. There's going to be times that Nick Richards ends up being the guy, but what I'm really worried about, what I really don't want to see happen is probably going to happen is JT Thor and Nathan Menza just play more, and Nick Richards just has the exact same court time and then is playing with usage hogs, Bridges, and Miller. And I mean, the usage already hasn't been there. I mean, he's a center and just out there to board and do other things, but like 2 and 4 shot attempts in 29 and 32 minutes, that just tells you how much it's turned in Bridges and Miller's favor. And the price tag came up. Like, he went from 55 to 5,900 to account for PJ Washington not being there. And he's just not looking all that good to me.
Yeah, then I'm glad he's not looking good to you, because I don't have any, and that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Let's go to the Milwaukee side, which is honestly a little complicating right now. Not the most fun situation. Giannis probable, Jay Crowder probable, but Damian Lillard is questionable, and that little piece of information matters quite a lot. So, what do you want to do with Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard, Giannis, and yesterday's hero, Jay Crowder?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to say yesterday's hero, AJ Green, who had 37, who randomly was in one of my top 40 lineups, which made no sense to me. But such is life. Again, he was 1% and wouldn't have gotten the run without a blowout, so it doesn't matter. 7 for 8 from 3. But yeah, Jay Crowder was in every winning lineup yesterday. If you get him out again there, he's now played 37 minutes. I think you just play him and get to some and figure out some other ways to move things around. But like, he's pulling the most ownership on this team as is. If you have Dame in there, I think the usage goes by the wayside to some extent. The minutes probably are still there to a pretty good extent too. I mean, we have him projected for 31 and a half, factoring in the blowout and things. And I think that's fine to be getting to Jay Crowder. If he ends up playing without Dame out there, definitely going to be getting to more than 15, 16% of him, I would imagine, but so will the field. Let's just do the Giannis thing compared to everybody else here. Giannis is sub 15%. He ended up like 33, 35% on yesterday's slate, which isn't identical to today's, but it was a pretty high number. And for me, one of my big stands for the day is just playing a lot of Giannis, going right back to the well. I love the opportunity that you have on like these flop lag situations. He didn't play well. It was all blowout. It is what it is. He's still going to be like a 1.85 fantasy point per minute guy. I don't know what to make about the Doc Rivers era being 1-4. I don't know about his offensive usage here, why they've fallen outside of the top 20 in offensive rating since Doc Rivers took over. But it is what it is. He's a 1.7 guy with the potential of being out there without Mr. Damian Lillard, which again would just shoot him through the moon here. Charlotte is dead last in defensive rating, as opposed to Minnesota yesterday, who is first in adjusted defensive rating on dunks and threes. So for all intents and purposes, Giannis, my favorite spend up of the day.
It's kind of crazy to think that they're going from the hardest defense to the shittiest team in the league from a defensive standpoint, at least.
It's got to feel good knowing that, because if they're reversed, you take advantage of the team on the front end and then everybody plays them on the back end. Like, it would have been nice to have it flip-flopped for tournaments where it's like, oh, everybody jammed him there and then you could hit eject against Minnesota. We're not really getting that opportunity, but right now the ownership is mitigated. So it's like, okay, you don't want to go back to Giannis, I'll jam him at 15%. Sounds great.
You want to go to anybody else for Milwaukee? As of right now, it really seems like it's just Lopez, Lillard, Giannis, and Crowder that are viable today.
If Dame is in, I will play Dame. And Malik Beasley's the other guy who is already going to be playing 32 minutes, even with Dame in there. If you get him out mid 30s minutes against a Charlotte team that, catch and shoot 3-point guys like Malik Beasley, if he's knocking him down, he's going to be chucking them. The usage will climb up. He's only been around 14%, but that goes up significantly here with the absence of Damian Lillard. I am pretty positive that yesterday I got to him 18% yesterday. I'd imagine that he's somebody else that I got to I'll get to him in some capability. He went up from 4,900. What was his number yesterday? So I had him at 4,800 yesterday. I had 18% of him. I'd imagine I'd get there again today.
Okay. I've got a ton of Crowder right now at 58%. I've got 40% of Brook Lopez, which I don't really know what's causing that to happen other than, I guess, facing Charlotte. And then I'm over the field to Giannis, which certainly feels pretty good. I generally enjoy slates where I can play the guy that I have projected for the most fantasy points. Usually feels like a good thing.
Kelly Olynyk in. I'm going to be playing Kelly Olynyk. I want people to know that.
There you go.
I hate it, but
that just came in now. Oh, Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji available to make Raptors debut today.
Yep.
Bingo. Good shout.
Getting everybody in Canada up there to get ready for. I think Kelly Olynyk's from Canada. I think
he is. He is indeed.
Yeah. So him and RJ Barrett, and make a couple calls and try to get Andrew Wiggins up there for a couple of practices. Get ready for Paris.
There we go. Denver Nuggets, 2.5-point dogs in Sacramento, 231 total. This one's tough to talk about. Single-digit ownership across the board for Denver. Single-digit optimal rates across the board for Denver. Only thing that we need to know for today, KCP is questionable for this one. Everybody else that's normally available is. Do you have any interest in Denver?
Not really. Jokic a little bit. I've got 4%. Aaron Gordon, I have 6%. I have nothing else. That's weird. I will say I don't think KCP plays, but I don't think it really matters. Everybody's tag came up, and yes, it's a Sacramento team that they have a 115 implied total against, but there's no doubt for me that this is a Sacramento matchup. 11th in pace here, 19th in adjusted defensive rating. It's good, but we play a salary game, and I don't see how I get to 8,400 Jamal Murray. I don't see how I really get to any of these guys. Like Jamal Murray, I guess I should have more interest in. He's looking really, really good, but probably going to be a casualty of the fact that I like CJ McCollum more.
I have 10% of Jamal Murray, and I don't have a single share of anyone else from Denver. So cue the Jokic monster game. Shouldn't be all that difficult to do on noted turnstile Domantas Sabonis.
That's fantastic. Today's nuke. Everybody wants to know the nuke. It was Giannis. I wrote it up earlier, but I don't
There we
think
go.
Mike has the graphics, so for what it's worth, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh, you have oh shit. Well, sorry. Screwed that up.
I made a bomb noise for you.
Thank you.
Kaboom.
Just the tick, 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 tick from Oppenheimer. We're ready to go.
I was going to go with the tick, 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 boom from DJ Jazzy Jeff and the artist formerly known as Will Smith.
There I go. Now I'm smacking a missile, and there goes my balls. It's right there.
Better than smacking Chris Rock.
That's true. That's true to think. And then think about it this way. That guy got arrested. He won 3 Grammys and got arrested. Will Smith slapped a dude in front of millions of people and went up and accepted an Oscar after.
That's insane.
Like, he committed an act of violence against a very famous person and then accepted the highest honor in his profession right after.
Craziness.
Unreal. Well, that was quick
Kings,
for Denver.
Yeah. Kings, kind of the same situation. They're getting a little bit more ownership. 20% to Herter, 15 to Monk, around 10 for Keegan Murray, 10 for Harrison Barnes. Nothing really coming in for Fox or Sabonis or Lyles. What do you like here? I'm getting Keegan Murray as a GPP type play.
I'm getting to Trey Lyles as a GPP light play.
Okay.
I've been playing Trey Lyles, and it is a hot hand approach. I think Keegan Murray, the leash has been shorter and shorter and shorter. And I truly think it's like getting close to like a time split of just like, Keegan, you get the first crack at it. If you're not knocking down shots, Trey Lyles is just going to be out on the floor instead of you. Last game, 20 minutes for Keegan Murray. Now, it was against Detroit. You saw everybody going berserk. Brown was going berserk on the bench, just ended up just saying, you know what, you're gonna sit the rest of the way here. And Keegan Murray, the shooting has been abysmal. And if you're not getting shooting out of Keegan Murray, there's not a whole hell of a lot of other reason to have him out on the floor over a Trey Lyles. And Trey Lyles is 3,600. So we've got him for 19 minutes, which is exactly where you should have him, like 18 and a half, 19 minutes. There's a floor to those minutes for sure, but he is currently 4%. And there are so many ways that he plays 24 minutes in this game. And the easiest way is he actually performs well. And those are my favorite kind of guys to get on 6-game slates like this. Trey Lyles is an awesome GPP play, I feel, today. And at 3,600, currently have 22% of him. We shall see if that changes here. Again, that was before other news. It was a pretty advantageous state. And the easiest way to do it is you just take a minute and a half or 2 minutes. You add it to the portfolio and you say, all right, I'm going to split the difference between him having a outlier game where, you know, again, 24 minutes is like the high range. I can't imagine he would be playing more than that in a lot of scenarios, but Keegan Murray has been so bad and the usage has not been there either. That's the other concerning part of it. 11, 13.1, 8.2, 10.1. If he's not going to be a willing shooter, if they're not looking for him, Trey Lyles is going to go out and he is going to go shoot threes. And you have a very clear path to a GPP winning type play.
I like the shout. I'm thinking I'm going to give him an extra minute shortly. Anything else here for Sacramento? Any Sabonis or Fox?
Who's the guy that you said you had a tournament play on?
Keegan Murray.
I see. And again, I think it's honestly both of them. I currently have 6% Keegan Murray, but I will say I don't want them in the same lineup. And I don't generally go out of my way to say that is what it is, but like they are so negatively correlated, I think, in terms of what their minutes are going to be. And it's just what's happened the last couple games. Keegan Murray hasn't looked for a shot or has not been found on the floor to take shots. And then he's missed anything he's taken. And Trey Lyles has come out and been just out of his mind. 3 for 4, 5 for 7, 5 for 10. But like they're going to him more and more in these type scenarios. And once the tide kind of turns, you want to be early to the party. I played him at 3,200, talked about him a lot in the article from 2 days ago. He tried to win me some stuff, but again, I had way too much of that Cam Whitmore moronic stuff on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. No, Wednesday, a different slate. Anyway, Trey Lyles at 3,600, my favorite tournament play here. I still have some Sabonis, still have some Malik Monk, but not nearly at the field on either.
We have one final game to go before we get there, though. Hit that like button one last time. Up over 2,100 people. We're up over 330 likes, but there's no reason that number can't be 400 so that you guys can see live before lock. We have the New Orleans Pelicans, 3-point favorites in Los Angeles, taking on the Lakers. Everybody is questionable, it seems, for the Pels. That is Najee Marshall, Joe Val, and Zion, all Q tags. Lakers have no Max Christie, or at least it seems like no Max Christie, and a Q tag on AD and LeBron, which should feel pretty commonplace. 30% ownership to Zion, 30% ownership to CJ, around 18 to Brandon Ingram. What do you like here for the Pels?
Everything. This is one of my favorite teams to be getting to. I really like Brandon Ingram. I know the ownership is going Zion, McCollum, Ingram. I'm basically going Ingram, Zion, McCollum. But I am overweight to every single one. They get done playing the Clippers defensively, a team that I think we can all say it's not as good with James Harden out on the floor here, but they've been one of the best basketball teams, period. They've been number one in adjusted offensive rating for the last month and a half, number 2 now for the entire season, but 13th in defensive rating, bringing Kawhi James Harden to the party. They now get to face the Lakers on the second leg of a back-to-back, who are now starting 2 of the worst defenders in the entire NBA and playing massive minutes, being D'Angelo Russell, 14th percentile defender, and Austin Reeves, 2nd percentile defender. You're getting 30 plus minutes a night from those guys. They have just abandoned defense in the name of offense. The Lakers are going to try to score 130 a game. That's not a good idea. Didn't go well last night against the Nuggets. I think it goes a little bit better here against the Pelicans, but like, I am in love with getting to this basketball team in tournaments. I even have some Herbert Jones over the field on him. I am way overweight. The guy who could end up potentially being the tournament play of the day is Larry Nance at 4,200. You want to preload your lineups with 4,200 Larry Nance and have a game plan in place. If J-Val sits a revenge spot against the Lakers, this is the team I have the highest exposure in my lineups to, other than Philly at the moment, which is insane to say out loud. But their tags came down after facing the Clippers, and now they draw the Lakers. This is just, it's a little bit asinine to me, but like, the ownership's there for a reason on those 3 main guys. But I just want you to know, I like the other pieces to come along for the ride too.
Old Rat wants to know, if Milwaukee blows out, will Portis play in garbage time?
No, probably not.
I wouldn't expect him to.
Not with him, basically being not a starter, but like he's an integral part of this team. I don't even really, if it blows out like up 15, he's probably still out on the floor at the 6-minute mark. Like up 25, no. There's like levels to it, I suppose, but I don't think about stuff like that.
5% ownership to AD is the high mark. 7% optimal rate to LeBron is the high mark. This team is probably the second worst team that you can get to today, if not the worst.
Yep.
But it could look great if you lose one of them.
Yeah, but Russell's now probable. You got Davis and LeBron that maybe we see something random show up on the back-to-back, but they need to win basketball games, so I think it's more likely that they're going to be playing basketball like everybody. But I have so many Pelicans that I don't even have to worry about it. I'll be able to make something work. Obviously the Sacramento-Denver game isn't as appealing. I do have that Trey Lyles play though, which adds a little bit of like a low end play where I can balance out lineups. So it works out a little bit in my favor to have more tournament plays from Sacramento that I kind of like to mix in, so that if something unexpected happens with the Lakers, I can at least get up to the Anthony Davis, LeBron, and then balance it out with like, again, a Trey Lyles or something like that. Mix and match a couple of pieces. But again, I don't expect it. This is the team I had the least interest in coming into this slate.
I've got nothing else for this one. I have 1 share of Russell, 1 share of AD. I have nothing to say for the Lakers. Did we miss anything? Anything you want to touch on before we get out of here? Turn this bad boy over to live before lock?
I think it was great. Chat is lively today. I'm so happy you guys tuned in. Smash the like button again. It's always nice to be the most watched show talking NBA DFS on a day-to-day basis. We don't take that lightly. We appreciate you, and thank you.
Eric may be trying to speak for me. I do not appreciate you guys, but thank you for being here. Shout out to BetMGM. Shout out to Mike for producing. Stick around, everybody. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy your Super Bowl.
There we go.
We came around to the Stochastic family this week. It's Stochastic Hall of Fame, baby. And all you got to do to get involved, get that sweet free month of any Stochastic package you want, $200 value, is download the Stochastic profile picture. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter what the entry is. and tweet your wins to us at StochasticHOF. And you're in, baby. Just like everyone we're about to talk about, some huge winners coming out of the holidays. And we kick it off with the first one on the list, Freddie P. Beautiful night for us on Sunday. Love everything about you guys. Much respect. Hey, thanks, Freddie. $15,000 up top for Freddie. And then Danielson, Merry Christmas. See what I mean? Santa came around. Got third out of 185,000 in the FanDuel quarter GPP. A couple days after trying out your Sims Max tool for the week with the holiday promo. First time using any sim, and he takes down third place for $500. Good stuff, man. And then our own Tom Kennedy, CEO, Stochastic, putting his money where his mouth is. Closest brush with a millie, rarely dabble in high stakes, but a couple things changed. Talks about the Sims tool, which won him $150,000. And then a couple days before that, Sims tool, using default settings, factory settings, chopped first place for almost $24,000. So shout out to Tom, putting up big numbers over the last week. And Sean Geezy, would this be a Hall of Fame segment without Sean? Took down the $4.20 max on DK, and then he follows it up with second and third in the $2 mini max. The guy's on the really insane heater, rocking the tools over with us at Stochastic. Shout out to Sean, as always, in the Hall of Fame. Kevin Cutler, after splitting first Thursday, I'll take another split tonight on the 40K Showdown. Hope to keep things rolling. It's all clicking right now. Yeah, man, almost $900 for Kevin. And Mo Terps with the $200 win, right? Said not all huge wins or fields, but the tools work. Trust them. Then Mo Terps slaying on Owner's Box. There's like 5 screenshots here from Mo just destroying the game over at Owner's Box. Alexis Sierra, shout out to Emax, ship my money and player Q DFS on the Saturday slate. Second win of the year. Team Stochastic, thanks for the great shows every day. That's a $1,000 win. And Justin Tope, been on a heater himself. $750 win here. Projections are on point as they've been all season. Yeah, Justin had another one too in there. Just been on an absolute 10-day heater. And Matisse, I should have took down the 100K Sunday NFL rush. 2 incompletions from Dortz. Just needed 1 catch. Anyway, hope this inducts me into the Hall of Fame. Yes, it does, sir. $5,000, third place. Congrats, brother. And then X Knight 360 finally took down an NBA Showdown this season using the NBA Sims tool. It works. What an absolutely amazing game between the Warriors and Celtics. Thanks to the team for your insights, tools, and support. How about Elon Musk's barber? Wow, that's interesting. Thanks to the incredible squad at Stochastic. Nailed my first place takedown last night. Shout out to Elon Musk's barber for that one. And Malachor back in the Hall of Fame streets. $375 win there. Thanking the boys.
That's too good.
Five, four. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock on a Friday night here. Do us a favor as you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by BetMGM. I'm joined here by Matt Belman. And right off the bat here, Matt, we've got an offer from BetMGM sponsoring the show. You're not going to believe it. I mean, you might, because we've done a bunch of shows together where I've talked about it. But if it wasn't for that, you probably wouldn't believe it, because when you sign up at BetMGM using the link that we have below, all you have to do is make a minimum deposit at $10. You bet $5 on BetMGM, they give you $158 in bonus bets. And the reason I want to bring this up here is the reason it's $158 is because it is Super Bowl 58 coming up. Super Bowl's this Sunday, for those of you who are uninformed. And this is kind of last call for a lot of these sportsbook deals. The best way to help build your bankroll in the sports betting space is to take advantage of all these different sign-up offers, and the sportsbooks really pump them up around the Super Bowl. But what happens after the Super Bowl? They go away, kaput, they're gone. You lost your opportunity. So take advantage of BetMGM. If you guys have not already, sign up using the link that we have below. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLERS. Mike is running through the gamut of all the graphics with all different guys on screen there. So thank you for that, Mike. But yeah, guys, take advantage of these sportsbook deals that we're talking about. If you haven't already, they're going to be going away after Sunday. And let's see what is going on here. As expected, right off the bat here, Matt, I was going to introduce you and ask you how you're doing. And then Tyrese Maxey got ruled out to kind of supersede everything. But that aside, how are you doing, Matt? And then we'll talk about the Tyrese Maxey news.
I'm good, man. Friday always feels good. We got a friend coming into town, staying with us this weekend, which is good. And also, you know how it is with people staying with you. I know you know. So, yeah, man, should be a good weekend. Excited to be on this show always on Friday night. How are things going with you?
Yep, I've got my dad is coming up from Florida for the Super Bowl. So we got Scuba's going to be coming up here to watch some football with me. And in addition to that, very exciting family news for me. My sister, who got into grad school, she's decided that she's going to be going to the University of Chicago over there in Illinois. So my sister going to be starting grad school next year. So very excited about that as well. So good stuff going on. And yeah, we've got the Tyrese Maxey news to hit on. First, we've also got a super chat from Ace of Spades. So here's what we should do right here. Let's answer Ace of Spades super chat, which is about DK tiers. And then we could circle back on the Tyrese Maxey news because maybe we'll get some information on the starting lineup. But Tyrese Maxey being out, not massively surprising. He was on the injury report, questionable due to an illness. He clearly didn't look 100% last game. And also beat reporters were saying that Tyrese Maxey wasn't on the court warming up with the team before the game, which pretty good indication that Maxey wasn't going to be playing. So let's talk about Ace of Spades DK tiers question. Got my tiers lineups here. And then after that, we'll talk about Tyrese Maxey. So let's start with tier 1 here, Matt. And this is also going to be relevant to the Classic contest because we got Giannis Antetokounmpo, we've got Nikola Jokic, we got Domantas Sabonis in tier 1. I'm liking Giannis. He absolutely screwed me and many other people by putting up an absolute shitburger of a game, even with Damian Lillard out. No Damian Lillard last night. There was no Chris Middleton. You think for sure, smash spot for Giannis. And then the slate locks, I'm like, oh my God, Giannis isn't even massive chalk. This could be terrific, other than the fact that I'd screwed up my CSV, which kind of sunk me before the slate even started. But all that aside, I was like, hey, Giannis, surely going to have a good game. Not ended up the case. I'm going back to Giannis. I like him for tonight. If you could pay up for anybody on the slate, would Giannis be your guy, or is there somebody else that you would like? We do have Giannis, Jokic, and Sabonis in tier 1. So if you weren't considering salaries, you could pay up for anybody on the slate. Which direction would you go?
It's easily Giannis considering salaries. So when not considering salaries, it's just even easier. Yeah, Giannis.
Giannis in tier 1 for me. And now in tier 2, that is going to be Anthony Davis for myself. Something else of note, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, both questionable. Very frequently, Matt and I are on shows together. We talk about the fugaziness of the Lakers injury report. Now, it's nonsense. It's nothing we should take into account. But this is the tail end of a back-to-back for the Lakers. I do wonder if maybe they might surprise us by resting somebody. Something to keep an eye on. But what's good about tier 2 here is we have Anthony Davis and LeBron James in it. So I like AD for now. But let's say AD rests and LeBron plays. Cool. You just play LeBron instead. Or vice versa. If LeBron sits and AD plays, AD would look even better. But Anthony Davis for me in tier 2. Tier 3, that is going to be Alperen Şengün. Tier 4, that is going to be now Tobias Harris for me. So earlier, it would have been a different answer. But now a little bit of a pivot on the fly. Tyrese Maxey officially out. Give me Tobias Harris in tier 4. Tier 5, that is going to be Brandon Miller, believe it or not. I mean, this guy has just been elevating his game to a whole new level. And from a fantasy standpoint perspective, the thing that's mattered the most for Brandon Miller, beyond just the fact that he has shot unsustainably well as of late. And if you remember also, one of the big knocks on him coming to the NBA draft is people weren't sure, is this guy going to consistently be able to shoot the basketball or not? And the reason that hasn't mattered as of late for me when I'm looking at Brandon Miller on a lot of these slates is because he's playing a gazillion minutes. Last game, 41.5 minutes for Brandon Miller last time out. And then also you look at the usage rates, 22.5%, 36.5%, 36, 29%, 28%, 27%. So we got a guy who's playing massive minutes while also taking up a ton of usage. So even if the shooting has been unsustainable, the minutes and the usage, they don't seem to be going anywhere. All that aside, tier 5, that's going to be Brandon Miller for me. Tier 6, I'm looking at Emmanuel Quickly. And we did get news, lots of news, by the way, during our preamble about the slate and about DK tiers and whatnot. So here's everything that has happened over the course of the last few minutes. We knew about Tyrese Maxey being out. DeJounte Murray is also out. DeAndre Hunter, he's going to be available to play. Patty Mills, Wes Matthews, they are also out for the Atlanta Hawks. And then also we have for the Toronto Raptors, Kelly Olynyk and Agbaji, who are going to be active, but they are not likely to play tonight. So let's start with Tyrese Maxey, and then we're going to be getting into the Hawks news as well with DeJounte Murray. And also, if you guys have any questions for us in the Discord channel, one of the perks of being a Stokastic member, you get access to all the guys here at Stokastic. You can at me whenever you want. I'll be answering questions. So we'll hit on those in a little bit. But first, what's the fallout of Tyrese Maxey being out for the 76ers tonight, Matt?
Huge fallout here. Not only is Maxey out, but they're in a great spot against Atlanta. So off the bat, I think campaign is a lock. You know, they already said that he's probably going to be starting. Presumed that it was because Maxey was going to be out, and that's the case. So campaign, Tobias Harris looks like one of the best mid-tier options on the slate. I think Kelly Oubre is sneaky. You know, I don't trust his minutes. He played garbage time last game. Like, they clearly don't love him, but they're going to need scoring here. And then Buddy Hield at 5K. I think Philly, Harris, Payne, Hield is my preference, and the three I like a lot, with Oubre. And then I guess Paul Reed would slide in at fourth. Still don't really trust him either. So he would be fourth for me, then Oubre. But the top three of Harris, Payne, Hield, I'm very interested in. How about you?
You know, it's tricky. A lot of times in these situations, particularly for analysis, I like to look at the on-off court numbers and see when you get massive players out like Joel Embiid, who's going to be out potentially for the rest of the season for the 76ers. You take Tyrese Maxey off the court. I like to look at the on-off court numbers to really get a sense for how does this team look? Who gets the most usage when these players are off the court? Here's the problem, though. You just mentioned it. We've got Campaign in the mix. We've also got Buddy Hield, who's now on the 76ers. So we've got these new pieces that are added to the mix that I kind of think make a lot of the on-off court numbers somewhat invalid. You know, we could certainly look at the usage numbers and we could assume, hey, look, Tyrese Maxey is out. Joel Embiid is out. It's reasonable to say, like, all right, Tobias Harris is going to get a ton of usage. I don't know exactly what to make of the playing times of guys like Campaign and Buddy Hield in their debut for the 76ers. And that is where I'm also going to lean a little bit on our projections and our data team here to kind of help guide me to see what it is that we're projecting here for the situation. And let's see, do we have this in here now?
Because don't forget also, like, they also traded Jaden Springer and Patrick Beverly. So no Maxey, no Springer, no Beverly. You know, I like Terquavion Smith. Like, he's a guy that can score a lot quickly. If he somehow starts over Campaign, I'd much rather that, and I'd just play him. I think he's an interesting tournament pivot off what will be a probably chalky Payne if he's starting. But man, if Payne is starting at under 4K in this spot, hard for me to get away from him. Understanding what you said is true. There's definitely minutes uncertainty. I mean, it's Campaign.
So I'm expecting the starting lineup. I'm just scrolling Twitter to see if there's, we don't have it official, but Nick Nurse kind of tipped his hand. So another indication that Tyrese Maxey was going to be out. Nick Nurse, about 40 minutes ago or so, he said that Buddy Hield and Campaign were likely to start today. Which means what? It means that he was kind of tipping his hand that Tyrese Maxey was going to be out. But now we have to look at the 76ers lineup, who's available for the team. We have to say, like, all right, they have 48 minutes to play at point guard. I think it's reasonable to say that Campaign is going to play the bulk of those minutes at point guard. But does that mean they want to just throw Campaign into the deep end and play him 36 minutes in his first game with the team? I don't really think that's going to be the case. My guess, and then I'll also be interested to see where our projections align with this, I think that they go Campaign. We're assuming he starts. I'm going to say like 28 minutes to Campaign, and then probably something like Smith playing the other 20 minutes. And then I don't even know who else they would potentially consider giving point guard minutes to. And Smith also is somebody who's been playing, not like normal minutes with the team, but he's been with the team and getting minutes at least in garbage time. So that's my best guess right now for how they fill those.
He's been with the team.
Minutes. Yeah.
Like, I get you. Like, he's actually been there. Like, and it's not like Campaign is some proven stud. Like, it's Campaign. So I'm with you. wouldn't be surprising at all to see Smith play better than Payne and end up playing a similar amount, if not more, in certain universes. It definitely plays out like that. I would expect Payne to play, like you said, probably at least 28 minutes if he starts. But yeah, I think there's definitely tournament viability in going to Smith.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't want to be too aggressive and just come out and say Campaign plays 32 minutes to where he's just somebody who kind of becomes inevitable, because I do think that there's a potential slight downside to his minutes, but he's clearly a top value play on the slate now. He's somebody I expect to project very well on a points per minute basis. And yeah, I think that Campaign, giving him something like 28 minutes, pretty reasonable. And even in 28 minutes in a matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, that is going to make Campaign one of the better overall points per dollar plays on the slate. And then as far as spend up options go, Tobias Harris becomes somebody who, I mean, just really makes a whole bunch of sense. And I'll read off the on-off court numbers with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey off the court, just to kind of paint a picture for what Tobias Harris has looked like this year, but also keeping in mind that we are adding new pieces to the mix in Campaign and Buddy Hield that haven't been there earlier in the season. But that aside, here we got, as far as usage goes, Tobias Harris does have a 26.6% usage rate with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid off the court this year. Kelly Oubre, by the way, 27.2% usage rate with those guys off the court. So he's also somebody who's going to see a little bit of a benefit here. And then as far as how that translates to fantasy production, Tobias Harris, 1.12 fantasy points per minute without Embiid and Maxey this year. And then we have Kelly Oubre at 0.99, so right around a fantasy point per minute in the absence of those two guys. So lots to like here from the 76ers. Tobias Harris and Campaign, those are going to be my highest priority players, alongside with Buddy Hield as well, because Hield, reasonably cheap price point, $5K on DraftKings. He's also getting the 3-point bonus over there. Good on DraftKings and FanDuel. So if we have to tier these guys, I'll say highest priorities, Harris, Hield, and Payne. And then I would put Reed and Oubre as also good players to be rostering, but like second tier options.
Yeah, I'm with that. And the Atlanta side just got more interesting too.
Yeah.
Because you talked about Giannis letting people down last night, going to him tonight, which I love. You got the same exact situation with Bogdanovic, who was really popular, wasn't last night, but 2 nights ago or whatever. He's in the same exact spot. And Philly's D sucks right now with no Embiid, mixing in new pieces. This whole game is really appealing, both sides.
You know, it's funny. If Eric was here, I'd be making fun of him, because the other day he was so insistent that DeJounte Murray was going to sit because he was about to get traded. And now I feel like he just backed himself into a good prediction, because what ends up happening, DeJounte Murray sits the other day. He doesn't get traded. Now he sits out again today. I think he was actually just hurt the other day is the reason he didn't play. And Eric just got lucky.
He had to have been hurt the other day, considering he's out again tonight.
Yeah. I mean, what's the long con here? They're trying to make people think he wasn't actually. Yeah. No. Eric was just flat out wrong the other day. It's the most recent way to approach, the most reasonable way to approach this, I should say. And then if you look at the on-off court numbers for the Atlanta Hawks this year, Trae Young, 1.46 fantasy points per minute in the absence of DeJounte Murray. Trae Young looks like a tremendous pay-up option now, considering him. 1.55 DraftKings points per minute, 1.45 over on FanDuel with DeJounte Murray off the court. And then in addition to that, he's playing a watered-down Philadelphia 76ers team. The Philly defense considerably worse this year with Joel Embiid off the court, as you could expect. If you go to dunks and threes, last I looked, I think Joel Embiid's like a 92nd percentile defender in the NBA this year. So pretty massive downgrade from Joel Embiid defense to Paul Reed and Mo Bamba. So it's a better matchup for the Hawks from that standpoint as well. So we got Trae Young, 1.46 fantasy points per minute without DeJounte Murray. Jalen Johnson, 1.08. Bogdanovic, 1.08 fantasy points per minute. This is a great game to stack. I know it's the first game of the night, and people are accustomed to me saying that I like to leave myself the ability to late swap later, but the first game on the slate is a tremendous amount of value, Matt, and it is a 246.5 total. It's like 10 points higher than any other game on the slate. I think you have to really heavily invest your lineups in the first game of the slate.
I agree. I think there's definitely some tournament leverage in not doing that, playing some pieces and then going heavy on New Orleans. Because 1, New Orleans is still too cheap. And 2, if you get Zion out, then New Orleans is way too cheap and look like plays on par with Philly and Atlanta. The problem is if Zion's in, I think the New Orleans plays, even though they're too cheap, look slightly worse than the Philly-Atlanta plays. That said, it's not like they're bad pivots. So I think there's 2 clear ways to play this slate. It's like you said, playing a ton of this first game, and then obviously playing a Giannis or another stud or an Ahmed Thompson. You don't have to use all 8 spots, or backloading and hoping the New Orleans news breaks right. I'm more apt to play this early game here. It just is too appealing. I think I don't want to say making a mistake, but from a projection standpoint, I think you're making a mistake not loading up on this game.
Sure. And we got the projections update, if you wouldn't mind showing those on screen for the Philadelphia 76ers here, Mike. And then we'll also start to get into more of your guys' questions. Quick question, Mike. There are a few super chats sitting here. I know we have to answer the one from Esau McGraw. The question from Olrat14. Did Josh and Eric hit on that in the last show? If not, I'll answer it now.
Nope, they did not.
They didn't? Should have guessed. Those goofballs. Demerits for everybody. Olrat14 said, in a Milwaukee blowout, will Portis play in garbage time? Probably not. We've seen this situation. Sometimes the game is lopsided. Bobby Portis will start the fourth quarter, but then he'll get taken off the court a couple minutes in. I remember there was a slate 3 weeks ago where it was a 4-game slate. Bobby Portis was super low owned and just annihilated the slate at like 3% ownership. And the only thing that saved me from not getting just totally buried on the slate was that Bobby Portis didn't play in garbage time, because he scored like 50 fantasy points in 20 minutes leading up to that. So that's something that really resonates in me, to why I could say, hey, I remember this individual circumstance where it was a blowout. Bobby Portis didn't get garbage time run. So no, not necessarily would he play in that scenario. And then also, we have enough good options to look at on this slate that Bobby Portis isn't somebody who's a super high priority for me. Is he somebody you're thinking about for your lineups?
No, I'm torn on the blowout question, because I'm sure he had to have been, even in that game you're talking about, in later than guys like Giannis, etc. I don't remember the game you're talking about at all, so I don't even want to speak on it. But I guess it depends. Like, if they're up 30, no. But if they're up 15, probably. So I don't know. I'm not playing him because of that, but I'm not playing him anyways. There's too many good plays. I mean,
yeah, so let's see. Recent lopsided games that the Bucks have been in. And also the game. Oh, here's the one I'm thinking about. It was a game against, I'll find it. Here it is. All right, it was a game against the Boston Celtics. It was actually longer ago than I thought. It was a game January 11th against the Boston Celtics. Bobby Portis played 22 minutes and scored 49 fantasy points. That was a game they won by 33 points. So, yeah, he ended up getting 22 minutes in that game. Other recent blowouts, January 17th against the Cavs. That was a really lopsided game, 21 minutes from Bobby Portis in that game. Lopsided game, January 27th against the Pelicans, 22 minutes from Bobby Portis in that game. Last night against Minnesota, he did get up to 29 minutes in that game. That was a little bit of a blowout. But in general, in lopsided games this year, we've seen 21 or 22 minutes out of Bobby Portis. So that would be my expectation in a lopsided game. They're all at 14. Let's go and look at the updated projections. Mike, if you wouldn't mind showing on screen, we'll start with the Philadelphia 76ers here. And if we look at Philly, who now no longer have Tyrese Maxey on there in our projections, you will see where we landed on some of the minutes for the new guys, which is what I was most interested to see, where we were landing on with our projections. We've got Campaign now. We did end up giving him 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes, Campaign projected for 29.17 fantasy points, making him a very, very strong option to get to at a $3,800 price tag on DraftKings. We can pull up the FanDuel projections after this as well. And then Buddy Hield at 5K is projected for 29.5 minutes and for 29.9 fantasy points. So also a really strong option. Campaign the higher priority because of the price point between the two. And then we've got Tobias Harris at 43 fantasy points, 32 for Kelly Oubre, 32 for Paul Reed. Guys who, relative to their salaries, like we said before, in play, not as high priorities as the other 76ers. Anything else about our updated projections on Philly that really stands out to you?
No, I don't know what to do with Oubre. What's your take on Oubre here?
Yeah, so Oubre is somebody who is certainly viable, right? We were talking about some of the on-off court numbers before, and with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid off the court this year, Kelly Oubre 0.99 fantasy points per minute. He's also somebody who's going to play some extended minutes today. The one issue that I have with him, though, relative to some of the other players on the 76ers who are benefiting from this, he's 6,400, where we have him at 32.62 fantasy points, which is not wildly different from Paul Reed, who's cheaper. It's not wildly different from Buddy Hield, who's much cheaper. It's not significantly different from Campaign, who's way cheaper. And then you start to have to think about like, all right, I want to prioritize the Philadelphia 76ers. And if we're ranking these players in terms of priority and relative to their price points, it's going to be Campaign 1 for me, Buddy Hield and Tobias Harris 2, 3, Paul Reed 4, Kelly Oubre 5. And we're not going to be building lineups with 5 Philadelphia 76ers players. So my answer to what we do with Kelly Oubre, he's in play, but he's lower priority for a couple of reasons. He's more expensive. And then also if we want to load up on 76ers and we don't want to play 5 of them, say, in the same lineup, well, then Kelly Oubre just becomes somebody who doesn't fit into a lot of lineups. If you're somebody who, and I always like to reference this because I know it applies to a lot of our audience, if you're playing 1, 2 lineups, that's not the scenario I would roster Kelly Oubre. And it's more so if you're somebody who's playing, 20 plus lineups, that's where you get yourself to like 15, 20% Kelly Oubre. If you're a single entry player, I wouldn't have Kelly Oubre in that lineup.
I agree, but I also think there's a lot of leverage because he's going to be very low owned in those contests and other guys from Philly are getting loved. So he's a direct pivot that has upside. Like he's really hard to get to because of what you said, but because of that, I like him in tournaments, if that makes sense.
And then let's see the Atlanta. By the way, we also just got news I saw come across here, my alerts. Damian Lillard on track to play today. So Damian Lillard on track to play. So Giannis isn't going to look quite as good as he did last night, but still a good pay-up option on a slate that has quite a bit of value opening up. Don't do it 2 nights in a row, Giannis. Fuck me once. I'm cool with it. Twice, though, and you got to pay for dinner. So don't cost me my DFS lineups again. Not again, buddy. Not around here. I'm going to be playing him. Let's see. Atlanta Hawks. We have the Atlanta Hawks updated as well. And this is where Trae Young now, it really shows out in our projections. We were talking about before. Trae Young, 1.46 fantasy points per minute with DeJounte Murray off the court. We've got him projected for 56.8 fantasy points, Matt. Must play Trae Young in cash games. Must play him in cash games. Great tournament option as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's only projected to be 8.5% owned. I don't buy that.
Yeah, well, ownership hasn't updated for the Hawks and 76ers news yet. Yeah, we do have projections updated, not ownership projections. But yeah, Trae Young is going to be just me throwing a random number out guessing. Or actually, you know what I could do?
It's updated right now.
Oh,
22.9%.
What was the number?
22.9.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if that goes up even higher as we get closer to lock. So yeah, Trae Young is going to be popular. I'd say my favorite pay-up option, all things being considered, on the entire slate. So play a lot of Trae Young. I'll play a lot of that first game on the slate. It's a good one to target. Let's get to the super chat from Esau McGraw, and then we'll go and look at the questions that we're getting in Discord from our subs. Esau McGraw is saying, fellas, who is the new heavyweight champion of the world play tonight? Play of the night. Okay. Boy, so how do we want to break this one down, right? Because this is a new question. I know people are always trying to get the new skits and bits in here. I'm going to take this as who's our favorite big man on the slate? Who's a center that we like building our lineups around?
So can you repeat the question for me?
All right. So the question isn't going to really mean anything to you because the actual verbiage of the question is, fellas, who is the new heavyweight champion of the world play of the night?
And the new, okay.
Yeah. So I'm just taking it as who's the center? Who's the big boy that you like getting into your lineups?
I'll ride with that. Man, I'm going to say Eugene Umerori from Washington. Presuming he starts, 3,800, should play huge minutes regardless of how this game plays out. I know Campaign is cheap, but you need some more spend down options, especially if you're playing Giannis. So give me Omayuri.
I'm actually going to go to Paul Reed here. So Paul Reed, I know his minutes have kind of been all over the place. Keep in mind, though, that it seems where Tyrese Maxey actually originally got sick from was Paul Reed. If you remember, Paul Reed was questionable on the injury report even before Tyrese Maxey was with an illness. So I kind of think that it was a communicable disease. Not saying they were tongue kissing or anything, but somehow we got Paul Reed, got Tyrese Maxey sick. And now Paul Reed seems to be 100%. Tyrese Maxey is out. And I do think that's something that if we're trying to look at why Paul Reed's minutes haven't been as consistent lately, I think we probably could reasonably point to the fact that, hey, he was sick. He was dealing with an illness. He was questionable on the injury report. Today, we didn't see Paul Reed on the injury report at all. And I think that's a pretty positive sign for what his playing time upside is. Now, does it change the floor of his minutes? No, they could still go back to it being, 28 minutes for Paul Reed, 20 minutes for Mo Bamba, but there is potential for extended minutes out of Paul Reed. So just because of what that potential upside is, as well as the increased usage with Tyrese Maxey off the court, I like Paul Reed quite a bit as a center option. He is going to be the, what are we calling it? The new. It's okay. I'm not going to get too much into the grammar here. Not going to nitpick, but all right. For all, he is the new heavyweight champion of the world, play of the night. There we go. Paul Reed, B-ball.
It's like the new.
Yeah, exactly.
Except that's also not. It's not it's the new.
And new. Well, it could be the new. It could be and the new
heavyweight champion.
Yeah. Either way, I also like Larry Nance. It could like him even more if J-Val's out.
Yeah, so Jonas Valanciunas is questionable to play. We still do have a number of players who are on the injury report, but this isn't one of these slates where I'm willing to forego the first game on the slate to care about the injuries. This is one of these ones I'm going to be loading up on the first game, and I'll be making late swaps in the late swap tool at Stochastic as they come. But I can't reserve lineup spots hoping, we got AD questionable, LeBron questionable, Valanciunas questionable, KCP questionable, Najee Marshall questionable. So for sure, there's potential for value there over New Orleans, but I'm going to be playing pretty heavily the first game on the slate. One of the rare times that I'm going to be rooting for players to not get ruled out later on the night. We've got a super chat from Jacob Dunn. And also shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Chris, thank you very much for supporting the channel. We always appreciate you, our Apple friend, one of the biggest supporters of the channel. If anybody else wants to support the channel, you simply like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Jacob Dunn is asking, is Kispert in play with not many centers for the Wiz? So I don't know exactly how the Wizards are going to allocate their center minutes today. It's very tricky. And the other issue with it too is I know we try not to talk too much about blowout risk because it's so hard to take into account. The spread is 18 points for that game, though. That's where I kind of draw the line and be like, hey, when the spread's 18 points, you have to reasonably consider blowout risk in this spot. So this is not a good spot for the Wizards. It's not a team I'm really looking to roster. For yourself, Matt, are there any big men or players in the front court for Washington? Maybe somebody in the Wizards front court who could be the new heavyweight champion of the world, play of the night?
Yeah, I mentioned Omayuri for the Wizards. If he's starting, I think that at power forward at 3,800, if he's starting at center, he's a productive player when he gets minutes. So, yeah, I think that he's more than viable, to be honest. Even in blowout run, he's going to play. So that's my take there.
All right, let's go ahead. And by the way, we did get the official starting lineup for the Philadelphia 76ers as expected. Campaign, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, Paul Reed. That's your starting 5 for the Philadelphia 76ers. For Mike Lawrence's Philadelphia 76ers, he's producing the show, and he is a 76ers fan. The way you could tell that is, we do suspect he's a double agent who isn't actually a Philly fan who pretends to be one, but he's wearing a 76ers hat to keep the bit going tonight. Let's go into Discord. And once again, one of the perks of being a Stochastic sub is you get access to our Discord channel. So even after the show's end, you could at me throughout the night. I'm always hanging in there, sweating the games, letting you guys know how I'm changing my lines for any kind of late news. And we're getting some questions in there now. If you guys want to sign up for a Stochastic package and get access to our Discord channel, you can get access to the Sims. We got links for the Sims package below. If you're somebody who's a newer DFS player, you really need help building your lineups, look at the lineup generator tool. Less than $15. That's going to build lineups for you. You've got player projections and ownership projections in there as well. So maybe there's a player you don't love for an individual slate. You want to swap them out. You can do that in the lineup generator tool. And of course, that also comes with access to our Discord channel. And from our Discord channel, let's see some of these questions. Starting with Cap and Akella. He says he's already playing Giannis tonight. So he's already playing Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then wants to know who's a single entry player that we really like, with the caveat being it can't be Giannis because he's already got Giannis in there. For
me?
Yep.
I'm going to go Zion Williamson, 7,100. I know he's getting love, but that love's going to fall because Giannis is going to be more popular now that we have more value. Like someone just skipped my mind who also is going to get, Trae Young's going to be more popular. It's going to be a little bit harder to get to Zion, especially with that questionable tag. So give me Zion. I know the ownership's there, but I said it this morning. He's like $1,000 too cheap here. Give me Zion. I like a bunch of the Pelicans, but Zion, I think, is my favorite play on the slate.
Yeah, I'm looking through the update because we got the updated ownership projections now. So looking to see what's changed now relative to before. So for reference for you guys, we've now got Buddy Hield is up to a 62% projected ownership. Trae Young, 39%. Bogdan Bogdanovic, 38%. Zion, 29%. Paul Reed, 28%. Tobias Harris, 27%. Lots of popular players, as it should be in that first game. But let's see. I'm just scrolling through the updated ownership.
You know who we haven't talked about?
Who?
At all. Amen Thompson, the highest owned player on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, Amen Thompson's projected for 71% ownership. He's somebody who, you guys are playing cash games. Lock in Amen Thompson into your cash game. Tournament's really strong option as well. But for single entry, all right, so here's a player in that first game of the slate that is picking up a good amount of ownership, but not anything crazy to like for single entry. So I'm going to be overweight too in large field tournaments. We got him projected for right around 40 fantasy points. Jalen Johnson at $7,400. Another guy who benefits from the absence of DeJounte Murray, right around a fantasy point per minute. It is actually a little bit above that. 1.08 fantasy points per minute for Jalen Johnson, now in a plus matchup against the 76ers. And also somebody who we've seen, the Hawks are willing to play Jalen Johnson massive minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble. So a significant amount of upside in Jalen Johnson. He's the player that I view as having the most upside in the first game on the slate with the most minimal amount of ownership. Not that he's unowned or anything, but not as popular as some of the other guys. So Jalen Johnson for me in single entry. But what did you want to add about Amen Thompson?
I was just going to say now with campaign, Trae Young, like he's shooting guard eligible. So that makes him still really hard to get away from, but not as hard as it was 20 minutes ago. That said, ownership, everything just updated. Trae Young now close to 40% owned. Makes sense. Giannis ownership down, which with Dame presumed in, I get, but still it's such a good spot against Charlotte. Still like Giannis a lot. And like the run backs there of Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges.
And a big reason for Giannis's ownership going down is because the Trae Young ownership went up, right? So you just got people, it's like, hey, spending my dollars on Trae Young as opposed to Giannis from before. And then, yeah, there's a factor in there as well as Dame has been ruled in as opposed to being questionable. But yeah, so Giannis's ownership has come down a little bit, which does make him pretty appealing there in some of those single entry tournaments. Let's see what else we have in here. We've got what is Master PJ is saying late swapping last night was just brutal. That porn star worked me over good. Context? I think I'm missing something there. Is tonight going to be just as bad with new guys on new teams? Well, here's the one thing about new guys on new teams. It's not going to impact late swapping because we're attacking it right on the first game of the slate. But here's what's different about some of the new guys on the 76ers as opposed to other spots. Campaign and Buddy Hield are both starting, which gives them a much higher minutes floor than some of these other situations. But for sure, there are going to be some new situations where we're making educated guesses. There's no way to know for sure what some of these spots are going to look like, but we have to go out and kind of take the information we know, make an educated guess. Campaign and Buddy Hield starting. I know it's a new player on new teams. We haven't seen him in this scenario, but they're guys to be getting to. Let's see what else we have. Steve G is asking us, can somebody look up as to why Campaign doesn't even show up in Fantasy Cruncher? Nothing I can really do about that. That is not our product. He's in the Sims tool. He's in the contest generator as well. Father of three says, should I be boosting any ROI in the Sims tool? So for today, not really, because of the fact that there's so much good value in the first game of the slate. The spots that I've really liked to boost player in the Sims tool, which I know people are going to get annoyed by this because they hear me say it almost every single night now, but it definitely rings true. When there's a lot of value on the first game of the slate, if those are the guys I'm going to play, those are the guys I'm playing. The spot where I'm really using the boosts in the Sims tool most aggressively is if they're kind of fringe plays in the first game of the slate that I don't really want to be getting into lineups, and there's a lot of players questionable in the later games. Today, though, the value's in the first game of the slate, so I think that's what we want to be attacking. We've got a bet on it. Said that Ricky Council's 31% projected ownership on FanDuel. Is he an option? Let me see the updated ownership on FanDuel. Is he really 31%? Let me see. I have to look at the updated ownership projections on FanDuel. Ricky Council. Nah, he's projected for 0.3% ownership on FanDuel. I don't know. Maybe you got the numbers mixed up or something. But yeah, Ricky Council's only projected for 0.3% projected ownership. Something else also is don't play somebody because they are popular, but that's not even an issue here. He's not projected for really any ownership. Ricky Council, not somebody I'm interested in. Are you playing Ricky Council much tonight? Oh, I should. By the way, let me Ricky Council the fourth. I don't want you to get him confused with any of the other many Ricky Councils. Yeah, there's like 38 of them out there.
Very, very glad you clarified that. Let me check. Still not getting to him.
Yeah, these players that have Roman numerals in their names, there's something sketchy going on. Like Lonnie Walker, the 19th. Remember, he screwed us over the other day because he pulled his hamstring muscle. It was the Roman numeral. It's the Roman numeral weighing him down. We've got a question here from Tim Lee. So we'll answer this, and we'll get back to some of the Discord, some of the super chats, and then we'll jump back into Discord. But Tim Lee, favorite flag plant of the night? Who are you planting your flag in, Matt? Nice and hard. Plant that flag.
When you put it like that, it makes me laugh. But I'm going to say, I don't know. Man, I'm going to say Trae Young. Projects for 57 fantasy points now, 9,300. Already liked him, just like him even more with Murray out. The Sixers defense is a sieve right now, so give me all the Trae Young.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Trae Young being one. Just to get a little bit different of a perspective, so we're not giving the exact same answer, though. I'll also say that Campaign is somebody who's worth planting your flag in tonight. I like me some Campaign. Let's see what else we have. Getting back to the super chats, Brandon Wagner says he's playing $4.20 max. Thoughts on 100% Campaign, Tobias Harris, and Buddy Hield. So by the way, those are three guys who I don't mind you really taking a stand on. Of those players, though, I would be the least inclined to go to 100% Tobias Harris. But overall, if you're playing 20 lineups today and those are three guys you want to lock in, there are three players that I don't mind having 100% exposure to. How about for yourself, Matt? Campaign, Tobias Harris, Buddy Hield. I was saying here, no real issue with it. If you want to take one of those guys out, Tobias Harris would be the first one I would take out to be an 100% guy. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with lacking those three guys. Little bit leery of a 62% owned Buddy Hield, but he's so cheap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, you can make really strong arguments for each guy being one of the top plays or the very top play at their price point. So I see nothing wrong with playing all three. I do think there's a drop off after those three, which is why guys like Reed, even though he's projected to be owned, and to a lesser extent, Oubre, who's going to be even less owned, stand out in tournaments.
I agree with all of that. And here we've got somebody left us a super chat about one of your guys here. Jason Swing said thoughts on Eugene Omoruyi. You had mentioned potentially liking him before. Has anything changed? Now that we've got all this other value that's opened up and you've probably rebuilt some of your lineups, is Omoruyi somebody who's still like getting to, or does he fall by the wayside now that we have a little bit better projectable value?
I mean, I still like him if he's starting. He's 3,800. I still think he has a role on this slate. Far from like a must play or anything that he began the day kind of looking like. Projections are down on him. He's not nearly as highly owned as he was. If he's starting, I imagine that will change and he'll pop back up, but he would need to start for me to have interest in him.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you actually, I had this question preloaded in the back of my head, then you kind of answered it at the end. But just to clarify, not interested in him for yourself if Omoruyi comes off the bench?
No, I'm not. There's just too much value, like you started the conversation with.
Andrew Williams, AD and Giannis, or Trae and Jokic in a GPP on DK. It's any question that's like a 2v2 with payoff options that includes Trae Young. The answer is going to be Trae Young for me at this point.
The answer for me is Trae and Giannis, and find the 200 to get from Jokic to Giannis.
Fair enough. Pierre, our friend Pierre here wants to know highest owned FanDuel players at each position for a GPP. Yeah, let me go back to my FanDuel lineups here. And I'm going to actually have to rebuild for some of the recent news here that we've had for FanDuel. Do you have any FanDuel lineups built out, Matt, or just for DraftKings?
Just DraftKings.
Okay. So one thing of note is that we do have both Campaign and Buddy Hield available on FanDuel, but they're not quite as cheap on FanDuel as they are on DraftKings. So let's go into the best guys for roster at each position. And I'm going to filter position by position in the Sims tool here. All right. So point guard for me on FanDuel, that is going to be, do I have my FanDuel lineup selected? Yeah. Okay, cool. So for me on FanDuel at point guard, that is going to be Trae Young. Shooting guard, that is going to be Amen Thompson. Small forward. Small forward over on FanDuel. I'm going to go with Buddy Hield. Power forward on FanDuel. That is going to be Zion Williamson. Center, Paul Reed. So those are the ones that I have the most of at each position over there for FanDuel. Sean wants to know the best value per position on DK. All right, so best value per position. Point guard's got to be Campaign, right, Matt?
Easily.
Shooting guard, Buddy Hield. What about the small forward, power forward, center spots? Who would you call the best values at small forward, power forward, and center on DraftKings?
Honestly, I think I'd move Hield to small forward and do Bogdanovich at shooting guard.
Okay.
Or Amen Thompson. We forgot about Amen Thompson. So Amen Thompson at shooting guard, and then Hield at small forward. Power forward. Power forward's a good one. I'm not sure. How about you at power forward?
I don't know that because like value is always so relative. I don't know if
Right.
there's anybody like super cheap that I'd say this is the value power forward. It's
Probably
okay.
Harris.
We don't have to force one. Right? We don't have to sit here and be like, hey, leaky black or anything nonsensical like that. So we could just say better value at other positions. Corey Williams is asking, is it safe to have a core of Payne, Thompson, and Omarui on DraftKings? Omarui only if he starts. Payne
100%.
and Thompson, for sure. Easy guys to call core plays.
Yep.
As far as, you just wanted to know those guys. Just Omarui only if he starts. Andrew Kang, our old friend Andrew Kang here. Sup, boys? Traveling the last few weeks, didn't follow the NBA. No idea at all on the trades and injuries. Hoping I don't bomb tonight. Good luck, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat there, Andrew. T22 Tokes says, any interest in the Wizards Celtics game? In general, not really for me. I know Matt's talked about Omarui if he starts being a potential option. But, I mean, this is a game. You just don't see very many NBA games with an 18-point spread. It's not a game I want to be all that invested in.
Same. I mean, even Omayuri at 3,800 is like almost getting to the point where it's too thin on this slate. And he might be a starting center at 3,800. So, yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's see what we have in the Discord channel now. If we go ahead and look in Discord, we have questions coming in here. And, all right, scrolling back. So we got some ones in here. All right. Clyde said Zion is doubtful, right? No, Zion isn't doubtful. Last injury report. Let's pull up the NBA injury report. NBA injury report. And we have February 9th, your most recent injury report from 18 minutes ago. Oh my God, do they have to make the text bigger for old men like myself? Here we go. Yeah, they don't have, so they have Zion officially listed as questionable on the injury report, not doubtful. Zion listed as questionable because of the left foot bruise. But yeah, not doubtful, questionable officially for Zion on the injury report. And let's see what else we have in here. And then he also said, if Joval, Najee, and Zion all sit, who are the three guys we would prioritize from the Pelicans? Larry Nance, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram.
Yep.
Mr. Coolcam, top plays at each position on FanDuel. We actually just ran through that one. WW Will 73. Not sure if there are any updates on the site, but Beverly and Payne are on the wrong teams. Are they? I don't think so.
Payne, it says, in the tools, it says he's listed for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And he doesn't
Depends
have
on what
ownership.
tool. I have him here.
Right,
He's
okay.
in Philly
That's
on the screen.
fair. In the boom bust tool I'm looking at.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, not a big deal. Don't worry about it there, W will. But yeah, we'll get that changed for going forward. But his projection is his projection. It shouldn't change what you think about campaign in any kind of way or anything. Let's see what we have in here. Cream, best center play on DraftKings. Paul, read for me. Who'd you consider the best overall center play, Matt?
Man, I'm going to cheat a little bit and say Giannis at power forward center. If we're just talking about strictly center, I'm going to take a shot and say Larry Nance because I already like him and the leverage he provides because he won't be high owned even if J-Val's out is pretty high.
Okay. Super chat from Andrew Kang. Are the Hornets short-handed? If the Bucks blow them out, Bridges, Miller, Cody Martin, they still get run, correct? I would not expect Bridges or Brandon Miller to play in garbage time.
I mean, same. Now, the Hornets are in garbage time a lot.
Yeah.
So they're going to play.
To be honest.
Yeah. Like, again, there's levels to this in that if the Hornets are down 30 going into the fourth quarter, they're not going to play the fourth quarter. But if they're down 15, like they'll play their normal role in the fourth quarter unless it gets to be like a 30-point game. So, it depends how the game plays out. I wouldn't really have that affect my lineups, to be honest. Also, Milwaukee sucks, so I wouldn't really I'm not thinking that they're blowing anyone out these days. That said, it's Charlotte, so I get the concern.
The team has been miserable since my buddy Glenn Rivers took over at the helm. He ousted his dirty move by Glenn Rivers. He got brought on to be a mentor to AJ Griffin right around the play-in tournament, and then he just ousts him as the head coach. Dirty move by Glenn Rivers. No doctor in my book. Not a good basketball coach in my book either. And the Bucks are definitely paying for some bad karma there by ousting AJ Griffin. So let's get back into the Discord channel. And don't forget, guys, show ends in 8 minutes, but I'm going to be hanging out in Discord for the rest of the night. So if we do get that Pelicans news where a bunch of players are ruled out, I'll be telling you guys in the Discord channel how it's going to impact my lineups. If you want access to the Discord, sign up for any of our NBA DFS packages at Stochastic using the link below in the description box. Chalupas and Chicken is saying, what up, big dogs? Who are the must-have value plays on DraftKings today? So the guys that I consider must-have are Campaign and Buddy Hield. There's no other cheap player who I'm like, you need to have that guy.
I mean, are you putting Amen Thompson in that group or no?
I'm not. Well, I guess if I'm going to consider Buddy Hield cheap, I should consider Amen Thompson cheap. I was just considering him not. I was thinking.
You weren't considering him in the cheap, not in the not must play. I got you.
Yeah. I'll consider him. I'll consider him one of the cheap guys. If that's the cutoff, we'll say what is he, 5,300 off the top of my head? Yeah, we'll consider him a cheap guy as well. So Thompson, Hield, Campaign, those are your guys. Next question. Oh my God, this is how much things have changed. Gangrene, Zion Williamson or Brandon Miller today. This is how crazy good Brandon Miller's been. We got people saying Zion or Brandon Miller. It is Zion for me, though.
It's Zion for me, but you're also saving $400 with Zion. So Miller projects slightly better, and that makes sense right now.
Let's see what we have as far as our next question goes. It is one from Melissa. Melissa is asking us for the must plays for DK Cash. So who are we going to consider the absolute must plays for DK Cash? Trae Young, Amen Thompson, Campaign, Buddy Hield. Anybody else put the must play category for Cash?
For me, the must play plays in Cash are Campaign, Amen Thompson, and Buddy Hield. Then after that, Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Zion, and Tobias Harris all look really good. And I think you want as many of those guys as you can get with the first three guys.
Let's see. We've got a super chat just came in. Riley Cooper, 14, Amen Thompson or Paul Reed. That's going to be Thompson for me.
Same.
We've got a question here from Clyde. He says that there is no ownership for Campaign. What is my expectation? So I just ran lineups here through the Sims tool, and Campaign is in 82% of the field lineups. Yeah, my best guess for ownership on Campaign, I'll say somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% tonight for the large field $15 tournament.
It's updated in the Boom Bust tool, and it has him at 90% owned.
Yeah. He's going to be really high. I don't think he actually gets to 90%. This is one of these things where somebody projects so well that they kind of could break some of the data. I'm going to say somewhere around 70% for campaign the $15.
Yeah. I mean, that's why like a guy like CJ McCollum now, who, and I love plays like this that really stood out at the beginning of the day, now all of a sudden are falling by the wayside, not because of McCollum himself, but because campaign is now a must play. Buddy Hield is now a must play. Amen Thompson is a must play. All of a sudden, you just run out of guard spots. Bogdanovich, same thing. Like, there's too many good guards on this slate. I think the Pelicans are going to go less owned than they would have had this slate started 5 hours ago.
Agreed. Let's see what else we have in here. We've got bet on it. He said he went down. I can't remember what this is referencing. I remember he asked a question before. I don't remember anymore. All right, let's see what we have next in here. We've got Hippo. Here's an interesting one. Amen Thompson or Buddy Hield? Do you prefer Amen Thompson or Buddy Hield tonight, Matt?
I like Buddy Hield more. That's hard to answer. I think they're close. Thompson projects better, and he's projected to be optimal slightly more. He's also more popular and a little more expensive. So I prefer Hield than the positionality he offers, but I don't think you're wrong either way. They're second and third in our boom bust tool.
I've got more of Buddy Hield right now. Buddy Hield. I mean, I have a ton of both of them is my real answer here. Lots of both, but yeah, I do prefer getting myself to Buddy Hield. Next question is from Nicola9292. Okongwu or Jalen Green? Are either of them priorities? Neither of them are priorities, but I prefer Okongwu for sure to Jalen Green.
I like both as tournament options. I don't have a strong preference either way.
The big thing for me is that it's going to be easier for me to reasonably get Okongwu into lineups just because of kind of how he correlates with the 76ers players I like.
That's fair.
And trying to get my lineups in. How are you doing on your lineups, by the way?
I'm doing pretty good. Just a couple more decision points and I'll be good.
All right. Let me really trying to not fuck up my lineups like I did yesterday, because that was an experience. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have screwed up my lineups yesterday, Matt. Would have gone better for me. Wouldn't have gone great for me either way, but it certainly would have been better.
So it sounded like you're pretty confident in Paul Reed here, huh?
I like Paul Reed. I wouldn't say confident. I'm confident he has a ceiling.
B-ball Paul.
Okay. No, that's a fair way to put it. I get that.
Because I can't tell you for sure that he is going to play, 32 minutes. We could just see him split minutes at center with Mo Bamba again. But I think there's potential for him to play the bulk of the center minutes, particularly if he starts the game well. A big issue with Paul Reed in some recent games is that he hasn't started games well, and then they're just more apt to give Mo Bamba more minutes. Let's see here. I'll rapid fire some questions here, and I'm going to also double check. Did I get my lineups done correctly this time? Damn right I did. I could tell because I got a campaign and Buddy Hield in them there. So really quick, I'm going to answer as many as you can before we get to lock. Extra QT. Seems like the showdown slate for Atlanta Philly doesn't have Buddy Hield and campaign playable. Can I update? Nothing I could do about that right now. Let's see. Master PJ says that something about late swap. JW must place for DK single entry from the first game. Campaign, Trae Young, Buddy Hield. We've got M Grizzly saying, is Buddy Hield actually going to be 62% on? Yeah, I think he probably is going to be. Jets World, thoughts on Bogdanovich with Murray out on DK. I think that he's a solid mid-range option. He's not a priority in my lineups, but I'm getting exposure to him. JEW, thoughts on Okongwu. Let's see, where did I land on Okongwu? Okongwu, I have 10% of Okongwu. We've got the Black Mamba, thoughts on Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. I prefer Jabari Smith to Jalen Green. We've got Main priority on FanDuel from Philly. That is going to be on FanDuel. Still campaign for me. FanDuel, Ingram, or Zion. I prefer Zion if they're both in. If Zion's out, though, Ingram becomes a much higher priority play for sure. And then finally, Nicola 9292, Thompson or Hield for DK Torn. I feel like we got this one before. Honestly, both of them, but Buddy Hield if you're choosing between the two. And that brings us to lock. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate it very much. Also, if you want to sign up for any of our packages here at Stokastic, use the links below because you get access. Oh, by the way, really quick before we sign off here as well. Amarui not starting for the Wizards. It is Jones, Poole, Koulibaly, Avdia, Kuzma at center. Okay. So starting lineup for the Wizards. Notable. Listen, what can you do? I've been talking for 70 million hours in a row here. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Good luck with all your lineups tonight. If you're in Discord, I'm going to be in there in a second to sweat the slate and hang out with you guys. So I'll see you in there. Peace out. See you guys tomorrow. If you aren't going to be around here this weekend, have a great weekend. Peace out, everybody.